that it would pick up better.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. In
It's a
fact,
little low because I think the preamps on it suck. Unfortunately, I was I have workarounds in place, but I can't really do it in my current setup where I run the mic through a mixer, boost the audio there, and then go in to the thing. But as long as you're cool, essentially jacking it up a little bit on your end, we should be fine.
it'll sound good. I'm pretty sure that. So actually, it sounds a lot better right now. So
Well then,
let's do it. And we're back with the program. It is Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos. And yes, it is time once again for another magical installment of the Cosmic Crossfire. And who better to do a Cosmic Crossfire with me than my good friend? He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Rob McCallum Films. You got to check out all of his great stuff going on today at robmccallumfilms.com. It is Rob McCallum. What's going on, my friend?
not much. I'm rushing to get my name up for everybody that watches us when we stream live on YouTube from our Google Hangouts. Life is good. What can I say? We've got lots going on in the hopper, as I'm sure you read from the different posts that we have on robmccallumfilms.com. We're only 10 days away from releasing Kitty Origins Evolutions, which is really excited. We've had tons of press for that as well. Morgan and Mercedes have been on Billboard.com. They've been on SiriusXM. They've been Metal Injection, like everywhere. And it was actually mentioned on the Bill Simmons podcast as well. Klosterman was talking to him about different documentaries that are out there as they were kind of dialing back to what it was like when Simmons first created the 30 for 30 series. And he said it was almost impossible to find anybody that was actually a full-time documentary filmmaker. And now it's like almost a go-to staple in and of itself. And they mentioned the Kitty Doc as, you know, just an example of some of the stories that are coming out. So that was pretty cool to kind of hear the world of heavy metal get dropped on in the world of sports was something that I was actually attached to. So pretty excited about that, to be honest.
And it's actually a good thing now, like you said, with a lot of premier documentaries coming out. Yours, which is the Kitty documentary, which you can get on March 30th. Please, if you can, pre-order it today or when it comes out, please go ahead and pick it up if you are a fan of the heavy metal genre, or even as far as good storytelling from a documentary status, and you like a really to follow a great documentary. I cannot recommend it any higher. Let's go with the Kitty documentary, indeed, starting, like I said, available on the 30th. But also, I guess when you're talking about Bill Simmons, I know he's got an Andre the Giant documentary coming out very soon as part of his deal with HBO. And I know also as well, I just actually got a chance to see the trailer for it yesterday. Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers documentary coming this summer as well.
Yeah, the Andre the Giant trailer looks great. I actually wondered why it wasn't part of 30 for 30 because there was a Ric Flair documentary that is part of 30 for 30. But
Yes, saw that one too.
now that you mentioned the output deal that Simmons had with HBO, probably in tandem with his short-lived talk show that was on there, it probably lines up and makes a little bit more sense. So that's cool, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the best worst part about HBO documentaries is that they're relegated to HBO for a very long time, so the rest of the world really doesn't get a ton of opportunity to see them. That said, there is an HBO documentary that is new, that is on Netflix in Canada, is available for purchase on iTunes, and that's The Last Year, which follows the Obama administration on the last year in office, which I like process stocks. I like seeing things unfold, so I'll definitely be checking that one out as well.
Sounds good indeed. Sounds good indeed. But I am here talking a lot about pop culture. Don't get me started on Andre the Giant because I have some great memories. In fact, some of my first professional wrestling memories are of Andre the Giant back at the LA Olympic Arena per se, but that's a long time
You
ago.
see, Andre was a little bit. He was a little bit before my time. I was definitely Hulkamaniac, Ultimate Warrior, like late '80s, early '90s, and Andre was a little bit more mid '80s to late '80s than he was
He was actually
WrestleMania.
70s, going
Well,
back in the
but when
70s,
he
my
like
friend.
hit like the pinnacle of WrestleMania, what 3 or whatever it was in Detroit with Hulk Hogan body slamming him, to
But
me that was like the pinnacle of Andre fame because it was the biggest audience, most incredible thing, you know.
but he was the most popular pro wrestler in the world during the mid to late 70s, even into the early 80s before Hulkamania started to come to fruition and whatnot. But I just have the, like I said, my initial memories of sitting with my dad in the Olympic Auditorium. And I don't, it's real foggy as far as that whole wrestling card goes. But the only thing I remember is Andre the Giant really just taking command, being larger than life in this big battle royal, and obviously coming out on top. So that's what got me hooked. So, but we won't go there. We're talking about other stuff today in pop culture. So, Rob, pray tell, what's on your mind when it comes to pop culture?
Well, I got to dip back into my bag of tricks on what's going on with Rob McCallum films and myself just before we segue into this stuff because it is pop culture related. We've been talking about box art now for the better part of a year and a half, and we finally got a trailer cut. We have to do a little bit of motion graphic work on it, but I believe I even sent it your way, Gerald.
That you did. That you
Is there
did.
is there anything that you can kind of tease the ilk, the vibe, without kind of giving anything away? Is it what you expected to see? Is it different? How does it compare and contrast to other Rob McCallum productions?
Well, it is. From what I've seen so far of it, and it is does remind me of a lot of stuff that you've done in the past. It does have a little bit of Rob McCallum familiarity for me because I have seen a few of your projects now, which I'm all the better for because all of your projects so far, in my opinion, have been very, very uh, good watching, good viewing as far as from a documentary standpoint. It just like I said, it looks like it's shaping up quite nicely. I was talking to Douglas Hoyabu from Retro City Games, one of the people helping you out with this project,
He's not
and
just helping; he's a producer on it. I mean, this guy
well,
is he's a part of the ownership team. Him, Nicole, and myself went on it as kind of like the three pillars of awesomeness, the Triforce, if you will.
well, he was telling me, he's just so excited for the upcoming project, and he just wants to do everything he can to be a part of this and help make this happen and come to fruition as far as some great things. And he was just so excited. He wants to do more. He wants to help you out as best he can, but he knows he needs to leave it up to the master as far
Well,
as
it's not even that. It's we're just in a position where it's all about editing and shaping and sculpting. And I said, Doug, the thing that you can do the most when it comes to box art, our docu series that's going to be 6 episodes that looks at the cover illustrators and the people responsible for our favorite classic gaming covers, from the PC world, Atari, through of course the golden Nintendo Genesis age to now. The thing you can do is basically just look at the cuts that I'm sending you and give me some feedback. That's kind of all that we can do at this point. And he's excited to do that, and I was glad to see his enthusiasm.
he's got it indeed. He kept talking about it at length, and I was just so happy for him. And then Nicole made sure to talk to me about it as well, and I could sense her excitement in it. And I'm just happy for the three of you that this project is going forward, and that it definitely will come to light. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Obviously, nothing definitive on a release date yet. You're still getting everything going down, but definitely it looks like something magical is happening with box art indeed.
Yeah, we're set to deliver for all our backers in December, and now the only things that are going to kind of push and pull that date and that kind of time period are distribution possibilities, legal, which is always out of our hand, and we're dealing with IP that we don't own, of course, the Rob McCallum staple, and any kind of motion graphics or post production work that we're doing. And as we kind of unveil this trailer, and we know we got to do motion graphics and a little bit of sizzle, a little bit of spice to it, we have a bit of a better idea of what each episode might need as well. So the trailer is a really nice microcosm for everything that's going on in the series. But yeah, it's exciting to be excited about it again and kind of find that perspective to dive in and what to talk about and what to showcase and to see everybody's reaction. We've shared it internally with the group, and I didn't know what people would think. Call me a pessimist, but I just wasn't sure if people would like it. And everybody like overwhelmingly came back and said, "No, this is cool. This is not what I thought it would be, but this is exactly what I hoped it would be," which is always a strange comment to get. But excited about that. And in similar news, been cutting the trailer for Power of Grayskull. Now that film and that whole life cycle for the documentary on He-Man, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, happened in reverse. We cut the film. It wasn't even like a full final cut. We managed to sell it. We have a couple different distributors on board for varying windows and handling different aspects of the film. And we had it all sold before we even had to cut a trailer. Usually you cut a trailer for a film first to get the attention. You only want 2 minutes of someone's time, and if they like it, then they'll watch the whole film. We got them to watch the whole film first, and then we were stuck without a trailer. So I said to the guys, I've got a little bit of time. I just finished cutting the boxer trailer. I'm kind of in the trailer mood. I'm ready to get going on this. Let me take a crack at it. And I was able to get something that was really good. And, we had tried doing trailers before and it didn't quite feel right, but we had some time away, some objectivity. And I think we're kind of heading in a direction that finally feels good and serves the film well. So be on the lookout for that, hopefully in the next month or two, as we again lay a little bit of polish and sizzle and spice on that too.
Well, that's awesome indeed. And I could see why it actually sold ahead of you actually cutting a trailer is because He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is, I don't want to say they're hot, but I want to say they're actually quite warm, as you attested to when you were on social media the other day when you talked about the even the credit cards come out with Skeletor and the Masters of the Universe come out as far as He-Man and whatnot. They're a property that's now being revived, and it's actually quite interesting as far as a lot of people actually clamoring towards it or actually remembering how fond they were of it, back in the 80s when that originally came out.
I like it. And the last thing I want to do for self promotion for now is talk about my wonderful fiance, Tanya Candler, who's got a blog out there for anybody that's interested in lifestyle subjects about music, society and culture, parenting, and food. And her blog is 21st Century Rocker Mom.blogspot.ca. If you type in 21st Century Rocker Mom Tanya Candler, you'll find it out there. She's got a few posts up already, one on social veganism, mom-splaining, and what it was like to be a teenage rock star and now to be a mom and what that transition's like. So if you really want an interesting perspective on somebody that's been, basically around the world because of music and is, living domestic bliss now, check out 21st Century Rocker Mom.blogspot.ca. And I hope to have her on the show at some point, whether it's with you or whether I just get a chance to sit down and chat with her about her blog and what she hopes to do with it and where she hopes to take it. But it's definitely really entertaining. Of course, I get to kind of read these things ahead of time, and they always surprise me because I have no idea what she's going to say, but there's always one term in there or something that she gravitates to that makes me smile. So like social veganism or mom-splaining. These are things that I'm like, well, I got to know more about this. So I clicked, and I don't know. It's just they're good reads, especially if you're a mom or a parent, or you just want to see what it's like as someone who's been a rock star and is now a mom and what that transition's been like. So check it out, 21st Century Rocker Mom.blogspot.ca.
I'm just glad to hear about all this domestic bliss that you're talking about,
There
my
you
friend.
go, domestic bliss. That's what it is. That's what
That's
it
what
is.
that's what it is indeed. But just so glad to hear that she's doing well and she's actually going ahead and sharing her thoughts, and definitely something to look out for. Indeed, all the great things are going on. I'm just so happy for you, my friend, that all these things are lining up. The life is a road with peaks and valleys in it, but you seem to be able to have navigated it quite well and are doing quite well this time. And I'm all the happier for you.
Much like the Chinese box office, Gerald, which
Uh,
started out a little bitter and has been going up and down and now growing to a massive mountain range that is defining the industry in ways that we never thought.
except if you're Black Panther.
Except if you're Black Panther. Is there some sort of kerfuffle about Black Panther playing there?
Well, it didn't come out to the greatest of audiences. I believe it was around the 20 to $25 million mark in its first weekend, and in the Chinese box office, which is okay, not great, because Tomb Raider actually the week after that did about 40 million. I think Forbes was reporting that there was almost a 90% drop in its second week to
That's a little high. Usually you expect around 70 to 75%, but 90% is definitely a bit higher. If you
but
get a
even some of
50%
those.
drop, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, even some of them are like 40, like 45, 50% drop. Like, for instance, A Wrinkle in Time was 50% here drop in the second week at the box office. But yeah, an 88 to 90% drop in its second week. And it's just a shame. And it's a telling sign of certain things that I don't want to get into as far as culturally or
Sure.
whatnot, because it's been well received all over the planet. But at this point
Except
in
there.
time,
But Star Wars wasn't accepted there either. And I mean, that's a
yeah,
billion
yeah.
dollar franchise as well.
So, but it's hard to figure out because there has been some Marvel movies that have actually prospered there, but you're right. Star Wars has never
It's
found its
I
niche
mean, I
in
don't
that
want to
market.
say something like the Chinese box office doesn't respect any action film with a predominantly black cast, and is that the reason Star Wars didn't perform there, because Finn is black and he's a main character,
Yeah,
and now
that
it's
gets
carrying over to
access.
Black Panther? I think that there are too many outliers right now to say what will and what won't work in the Chinese box office before anybody makes that claim. Sure, you can take a look at it as one possible element that will detract from that box office for whatever reason. I'm not saying Chinese people are racist and they won't watch anything that has a black lead, because frankly, you could say the same thing about a North American audience for so long. Don't cast a Hispanic as a lead. Don't put a woman superhero in her own film. Don't put a male actor to carry a film, because it'll never work. And all we've seen, especially this year, is the opposite of that. So I don't think
Exactly.
it's fair to cast those kind of judgments on the Chinese box office yet, especially as a box office is really just starting to mature and find its footing. We don't know what works there. It is a completely different culture. We can't judge it by our standards. And I think we just need to sit back and just gauge and see what works and what does stick to the wall.
Well, I hope that's the case. And like I said, you're right. Certain Disney movies have not found their niche in the Chinese marketplace as of yet. Star Wars and like we're seeing, certain Marvel movies are just not finding its place as of yet. Hopefully that will change, but their tastes of the Chinese market are decidedly different than certain other parts of the world. And when Tomb Raider can score almost twice as much in its first weekend there than here, that's definitely a telling sign on exactly how to market to a different audience than what you're doing maybe in other areas of the world.
Again, I want to see more time. I want to see more films come out there. They've only really just opened the floodgates to allow specific films. It's not a free market where any film can be there. You have to go through government regulation and paperwork to even get it played. You have to team up with Chinese companies. It's very strict on how things can get in there. So let's all just sit back before we make kind of the wrong claims. The one thing, though, that I saw that you guys posted on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page was about theaters in China and the design that people were going for, with the number of theaters expanding rapidly. And it looks like there's more theaters in China than anywhere else in the world. There was an article that you posted about a design firm really looking to structurally change up what a theater looks like. So when you walk into it, it is a visual experience before the movie even plays. We're talking like granite like rock explosions that are coming out of the theatrical wall. We're looking at like almost like light speed blending decor around you. They basically want to translate elements from the movies that we know to the movie watching environment. And I mean, this comes out after news in California of a man that died after getting his head trapped under a seat in California. Maybe theater design does need a little bit of work. I mean, the biggest innovation, of course, is the stadium seating, going from the flat, seats back in when I started seeing movies in the 80s to now the stadium seating and luxury recliners. But do we need more decor around it? Do we need to have a more immersive experience instead of just cutouts and standees on the way in? I'm not sure. I'm kind of torn. What do you think?
Well, it comes down to this. I'll go back to Tomb Raider. I mean, my daughter went to go see Tomb Raider in an older part of Henderson, Nevada, uh, and you go back to that theater, and it is the old school as far as flat back, as far as the way it's structured, and seats aren't really a priority as far as the comfort is concerned, but the prices are lower, substantially lower than what most people are paying for today. Where did I go and get my tickets for Avengers Infinity War? I'm willing to pay more for that experience because it's got the recliners, and it's got a whole lot better experience as far as from a visual standpoint as well. Improved screens, IMAX, 3D, all that type of stuff is now available. But also, you got to remember there's now other amenities as well. My son told me about when he was in Los Angeles recently about a theater in Thousand Oaks where he was sitting at. He not only had the recliners, but he also was able to order food, and they came and served him food right to his seat, so he never had to get up. Those kind of things people are now willing to pay more for because yes, it is more expensive to go to the theaters, but if in doing so you provide something more than what people used to do and people used to have when they go to theaters, to me, it kind of makes sense because it should be an event every time now that you're going to theaters.
I agree, and I think some of those services and some of these changes are worth the price because if you're gonna make the commitment to see something outside of the home, which is now like the entertainment hub of everyone's universe, there's so much to watch, so much to do, and you can have a really great experience at home. Snacks are right there, no line up for the bathroom, you can pause the movie. Then, if you're gonna go out, then it better be the best possible adventure that you can go on. I guess I'm not sure that we need to see a theater or a theatrical space transformed, mainly because it'll be cool the first 6 times you go to it. Oh, I'm in the meteor room. Oh, I'm in the light speed room, or I'm in like the ancient tomb theater screening room, and that's awesome. One, you're stuck with what's there. So if you're in the light speed room but you're watching like a western, that's really not going to gel, and you're going to have some sort of a mishmash between the area around you and what you're seeing on the screen. So I think for them to kind of do this, and I like where their head's at, and they've already done a number of theaters, and they said they're successful, and it's worth it. And I don't know if there's an additional ticket charge, or if this is just a loss leader to bring people to the fancy theater, like we're seeing, and like what you're talking about. But I think they should go for a more modular approach. What can they do so that things can change around in suit towards the kind of genre or films that are there? If they're showing like a detective movie or a film noir, can it be all like black and white decor in there and have some sort of ambient music that goes with it? If it is a superhero film, can we see like, I don't know, cosmic explosions and like comic book like LED paneling on the wall that's moving? Just some different ideas, like I think that's where they should kind of aim. And you can do 3D LED lights, so why not play with that formula instead of something that is so permanent that's going to feel dated to the viewer and inevitably not line up with the content that's on the screen anyways.
It depends on the location, though, my friend. I will say this. If you go to Universal City, for instance, in California, they have right there on the Universal City Walk, they have a theater right there. I think something like that for a one time only, because a lot of people that go there are probably only going to visit there maybe once or twice in their life. That would probably be a cool place to do it at, or near theme parks, attractions, major visiting or tourist spots that you're only going to be there at a handful of times at best. That might work there. But you're right, for the local mall, for the one at that's right down the street, no, those that shouldn't be as far as that elaborate and detailed and that permanent per se, but something that might change with whatever movie is going with it, that and be adaptive to it, that might be much more interesting and a much better outcome for anybody who goes there on a regular basis.
Well, and here's the other thing, you and I are talking, we're pretty big movie aficionados. I don't get to go to the Cineplex as much as I would like to these days. Toddler, newborn, life has changed a little bit for me. But everybody that's listening to the Cosmic Crossfire, the Pop Culture Cosmos, the Pop Culture Multiverse, these are avid consumers of pop culture and movies. That's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the bread and butter people, the people that want that, the movie pass so that they can go see like 3 movies a week or 2 movies a week or whatever it is to get their appetite kind of satiated. Those are the people that I'm talking about, where it's gonna get beyond what they need. Sure, one of the things I like doing is when I do travel is go to a different theater so that I have that memory. I'll remember I watched Avatar when I was in downtown Disney in Orlando, so now I have that memory associated with that. I like seeing new theaters that I'm not used to, so it does feel a little new, fresh. And I agree, if you're gonna go to the Hollywood Walk and you see the theater there, that's a cool kind of thing to do, but for 90% of us, 95% of us that keep going to the same movie theater over and over again, unless a movie that we want isn't playing, or unless we're trying to catch it on second run in a little bit of a discount or in an older theater, we got to constantly find ways to kind of make that viewing experience and that venture out of our homes, which we've talked about not only for theatrical stuff, but also buying things at different stores. And we could go into Toys R Us again and again. But we got to make that journey kind of enticing for people. And so if it's always different or it feels different, then that's a way of getting people out of their homes and onto the streets.
Well, you can no longer say Toys R Us in here in a little bit, but you may be able to say KB Toys. You never know. I heard
Yeah,
there
I
might
read
be a
about that.
comeback.
Do you know by chance what's going on with Toys R Us in Canada? Because I didn't see any closure signs on the Toys R Us around here. I know in the US and the UK it's closing, but I didn't see anything around here.
Like I said, I've not heard anything about Canada as of yet. The company has announced plans as far as how it's going to structure its liquidation as far as within the US and the UK. But I would imagine that unless the Toys R Us in Canada are owned by a separate entity, maybe a franchise that might stay open. And we've seen that before, as far as, in fact, there's still Blockbuster video stores. There's like 5 or 6 left, I think. One just closed in Alaska, but there's still entities using that name, so we could still see Toys R Us is remaining in Canada as a possibility, but maybe under a different arm or ownership or something of that nature. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about Canada as of yet being affected or maybe possibly being part of this liquidation sale for the UK and US stores for Toys R Us. But KB stores, like I said, is could be just around the corner getting a revival.
And who knows, Toys R Us could get a revival down the road too. I think the name alone, there's value in that name. So if KB Toys can, fall silent in 2009 and then be resuscitated a decade later after figuring out what went wrong, who's to say that Toys R Us couldn't do the same thing? And I think with KB Toys kind of figuring that out and seeing the brand value of a Toys R Us, that might be an interesting kind of. It's the Fox Disney merger of toy stores. Here we go. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Definitely, and but one thing that has to be talked about is how they could go ahead and become a viable alternative to Walmart or Amazon on online, and if they can't do that, and if they just still try to predominantly try to gain their sales off of brick and mortar stores, then they're dooming themselves once again.
I agree. I agree. Speaking of things that might be doomed, let's turn our attention to some video games. There was an article on the Hollywood Reporter that talks about the God of War game that's coming out in April. And it says, God of War offers the most cinematic game experience yet. Is this what we want in a game? How many years have we said, when I play a game, I don't want to sit down and watch a movie? And yet, the next God of War game, which Sony has pumped a lot of money into, and they're taking a little bit of a different turn, and there's not too many nods to the previous games, has gone in the full-on cinematic route once more. Is this what we want? And I think I compare and contrast to the hype for God of War that Burnout Paradise Remastered received, which is not cinematic at all. It is start, ram into things, get going, arcade frenzy, and it seemed to be just as popular or buzzed about, just maybe not the price point, but just excited about in terms of, what do we want to play as God of War, which may get sour now, given that it's a cinematic game.
Do you really want me to ask me that question?
You're so excited for it, aren't you? You're so excited, I can tell.
Well, you see me right behind me. You've got Nathan Drake and Shepard, both from games that have tried to incorporate cinematic themes within the structure of their games, and they happen to be two of my more favorite games as far as that's concerned. And to me, I am excited about it, and I am more drawn to it because of that fact. In fact, the early reviews, as far as people, that, not full reviews, but people that have been able to actually get their hands on the game, as far as in the early going, that are able to go ahead and comment on it, have spoke glowingly about the initial findings of the game as far as that's concerned, as far as the story being extremely compelling. And that's something we haven't had in a little while. It's an extremely compelling story. Probably the last thing maybe is the latest Wolfenstein, which came out, obviously at the end of October. So it's nice to see. For me, that's something that there's going to be something more cinematic, more focused on storytelling, and not just rinse, repeat, combo, 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 rinse, repeat for me. So, I mean, as someone who's been playing a little bit of Fortnite, playing a little bit of other games, and getting into Sea of Thieves here a little bit, I just think it's actually very cool that there's actually going to be a cinematic game that might draw me in even more than I ever have been to the God of War series before.
I guess I'm just completely turned off as a guy who doesn't have a lot of time, and that when I want to play a game, I want to play a game, and I hear the demos they were showing were showcasing the first 3 hours of the game, which barely scratched the surface. It's just such an off-putting marketing ploy, and I get that it appeals to some crazy people like yourself. And I own RPGs that are 70 hours long, and I can get excited by those. But when it comes to a new game, and if I'm going to decide if I'm going to plunk my money down, I want to be able to play this. And I know a very good friend of mine, Justin Schoenrock, who lives and breathes God of War. So I'm gonna go. I can't wait for this to come out because I want to ask him what he thinks of God of War, and how it kind of lives up to the experience. It just doesn't do it for me. The Hollywood Reporter article, you can search it out there. It's under their tech banner. Talks about how the script is great, how Kratos has gone from a 2-dimensional 3-dimensional character. The introduction of his son has changed how he is and the choices that he makes, and the fact that there are choices, and that's all great. I don't know. God of War has always been a hack and slash beat 'em up, and this isn't like necessarily like what they've done for Tomb Raider, where they re-envisioned it as a different kind of franchise. This is a continuation, so it just feels maybe like the wrong step.
For me, actually, I think it's quite the opposite because Kratos has been nothing but a two-dimensional character. Rah rah, I'm mad at the gods. I'm
That's what
mad
I
at the
just
gods.
said.
Rah rah rah. Slash
They've
slash.
changed it.
Whatnot. Now it's something that's more fleshed out. His story is something that a lot of people that outside of just people wanting to play the game now may follow and may have interest in. I mean, why are people drawn to the Uncharted franchise? Why has
I
it
don't
sold
know.
so many
I
million?
don't know. That is a question for an entire episode on. I'm just kidding. I like Uncharted.
So you like Uncharted because it tells a great narrative.
But
And
the
Mass
cinematics.
Effect, same thing. They're
But
right
this,
behind me. That's why.
I haven't played Mass Effect. I haven't played it. But Uncharted, from what I have
Oh,
played,
I don't know. This interview may be over. I don't know. I don't know.
I know, heaven forbid, I don't play a game that you love. I get it. I get it. But I didn't find the cinematics in any of the Uncharted games. I haven't played the fourth one, so that might be the exception. I haven't played it.
Well, it's
Um,
not. I will tell you this. It has a lot of nice things about it, but it is not quite up to a couple of the other installments in the series. It's just a little long on that one.
I didn't feel that any of the cinematic stuff in the Uncharted series was particularly long or over the head, or at least had a lighter tone to it, so that you could get through it in that Indiana Jones, like, oh, what is this about? With God of War, with Tomb Raider, it's always so dark and gritty and overbearing, and same like The Last of Us. Oh my God! Like, I don't want to sit down and escape reality to be put in something that just depresses me more and makes me want to escape it to get back to my life. I don't want that. So I'm
But
just
that's what
really
made
worried that
that's what made the first original Tomb Raider reboot so great is that it showed a different side of Lara
but that
than
was
we had come to
dependent.
know.
But the problem with that is it's dependent upon the original version of the game for that success. If Tomb Raider had come out and the previous incarnations of Tomb Raider didn't exist, I don't think it would have done as well as it had done, because it had nothing to compare and contrast to.
I disagree. I think it's just again, it's another great job in that case for Crystal Dynamics, and look what it led to. It led to a actual eventual feature film
Which is
that
done
based.
so well.
I know, which has done so well. Well, it may even make its money back because it's doing so well overseas, not here in the U.S. but overseas. But it bases
It
a
may
lot of.
even make its money back when that is the high mark for success.
Well, that's a high watermark for video game films in general. It didn't make its money back, but we won't go there. That's another issue entirely. But it bases a lot off of the original rebooted game in the series, and
Sure.
that's that narrative. It follows it closely from what I was talking to Josh and what all appearances may be. I just think, like I said, to me, telling a narrative in games is important to me, but no, it doesn't have to be in every game. No, it doesn't have to be.
And
Obviously, there.
I'm not saying that there isn't a role for narrative, but
I mean, when I go play
I
when I
don't
play
want a half-hour episode between gameplay.
when I play Fortnite Battle Royale, I'm not looking for a narrative. I'm looking just to go ahead and do what I can to survive.
But would you
That's what
like
you.
Fortnite more if there were cinematics in it?
No, no.
There you go.
But I would like God of War if it does have cinematics in it.
You see, I think you need to examine why you like one versus the other and how cinematics couldn't help Fortnite. That's what I think you need to consider. Because if there's a role and a place for a narrative, then Fortnite can only be better by the inclusion of cinematics, by your logic and rationale.
No, it's just a different taste for different games and how you like to see them structured.
Different strokes for different folks.
All right,
Speaking
fine.
of Speaking of reboots and incarnations and interpretations, Krypton has finally been making a really big push to show people what it's all about. It's been all over social media, which is how I caught the original trailer that I think they showcased at Comic Con last summer or some other events leading up to it. And this, of course, is the latest TV entry in the Superman legacy. It shows that it's more than actually just a prequel story set on Krypton and involving Superman's grandpa. It actually has people coming from our present day, if you can call it that, going back in the past to let Superman's granddaddy know that somebody's trying to kill him and erase the legacy that Superman's going to create. So there are some stakes. It's not just inevitable how things will happen. It's actually kind of rewriting the past. So I think that's a really smart move on the writer's point. But how will this compare to other superhero shows that we see on TV? And we know the success that we've seen on the CW network, and this is on Sci-Fi. And how will this compare to other Superman shows as a whole? Between Smallville, between Lois and Clark, and everything else that's out there.
My gosh, I do not have the affinity of Superman that a lot of other people have. I think he's okay, but that at this point, I think it's very watered down. I think Smallville was a very successful series in its own right, and I think it set the standard for Superman shows. Krypton, okay, fine. It's something that we may be able to experience now for maybe a season or two, but I can't see it playing out for a long haul. I don't see unless there's a, like you said, a gripping story and excellent writing that brings a new narrative that we haven't seen from the Superman series before that still is able to tie into what we're familiar with. Then maybe then maybe I'll be proven wrong, and I hope I am if that's the case. But at this point in time, there's DC needs to focus on its movies and get that going, and just stop just trying to just lay itself out in so many different options as far as trying to create so many different things that they put out there between the CW, like you said, this one, which is not on the CW but it's going to be on the Sci-Fi network, and so many other things that they've got going out. And then they seem to seemingly announce a different movie every single week that there's going to go in production now. The Gods movie that they're talking about doing, and it just seems like they just need to just slow down.
It's almost like, here's everything we're doing. What are people gravitating to get us excited? I think Krypton, the telling factor is going to be, what is the hook of the show? Because the hook isn't that this is set on Krypton and this is about Superman's legacy, because you could say the same thing for Smallville. But what are they going to do series-wise that makes it interesting? With Smallville, it was almost like every season they took a different chunk of Superman's life and they made it about discovering like one power and how that complicates his world just as he starts to understand it, or how he understands his destiny is bigger and how it's complicated with being an outsider but trying to fit in as everybody else. So as a teenager, which is a natural teenage thing to begin with, so it just fits so well to have Clark Kent be an outsider like every teenager feels and try to be an insider. But it's not just perception or teenage hormones. It's actually genetic DNA, and he is an outsider, and he has to be confronted with the fact that he'll never be an insider. What is the dramatic hook for Krypton that'll make it last? And what is the fun element? If Smallville had the speed bursts and the laser visions and getting away with using these powers where nobody else saw them, or stopping well-known DC villains before they became the DC villains, or seeing what led to them. What is the hook in this entire world and universe that we haven't been exposed to? What are these payoffs going to be? These little fun tidbits, they're going to keep us coming back and wondering, oh, what's going on with this? I think that's going to be the challenge, and that's what shows like Flash and Arrow have done very well. They've been able to kind of take some of those elements. Not surprising, the showrunners from those shows were involved in Smallville. So what are they going to do on Krypton to make that just as exciting? And what's the flavor going to be? Is it going to be like we saw Krypton and Man of Steel, this other plasticine like world where it looks like Avatar, but not in any kind of good or bad way? It just kind of is there. Or are we going to see something that actually has an identity and we want to be a part of and we want to journey back to every week? Those are the big questions, and I'm not sure anybody has given those answers yet.
And that's something that's even more into detail as far as superhero genre on television, as far as what, is there too much of it right now? I mean, Black Lightning, of the new shows that have come out within the superhero genre, that seems to be something that people are gravitating to, even on the CW, and that's a promising sign right there. When it comes to Krypton, could it fall like the wayside like some others, or could it be something that people are gravitating to, much in a way like Legion actually was doing pretty well for a while on FX, and looks forward to another season with that as well. But there's some pretty much losers as well that, as we've seen from Marvel, has been able to dish out as far as disappointing seasons of Marvel shows on Netflix. Plus, also as well, the stuff that they're doing on ABC is pretty substandard as well.
Yeah, I'll be checking it out probably the first 3 episodes because I am a kind of a comic book guy. I do like the big guns from DC. I want to see where this goes. I probably will pay attention to some of the reviews a little bit more than I would normally do, mainly because we don't have sci-fi here in Canada and I don't have cable. So if I'm watching this, I'll be purchasing it directly from iTunes, episode by episode. But I'll give it a shot and see if it's good. But there's not enough information out there about it, so that pilot really better be good and really better lay out all those really big questions that hook us into every kind of superhero in the way that you can't put it down. You can't wait to get back, like any good show on TV.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like I said, if, like you said, if there's no hook, then pretty much it will be DOA. And we've already seen with the Inhumans what happens when you already have bad word of mouth.
Last thing I want to talk about is a documentary that I've also been praising and looking forward to since December, and that's Muppet Guys Talking. It finally came out March 16th, and this is the documentary about 5 of the original Muppet performers sitting down and having a chat for really the very first time as a group about what their experiences were like making Sesame Street and the Muppet Show, and what it's been like to work with Jim Henson, and how that entire experience and those people transformed their lives, and how it really transformed the world. You can go to MuppetGuysTalking.com. You can get the film for $10. It's the only place you can get it. It's weird because when it launched, there was 2 options: buy the film for $10, $9.99 or $9.97, I think, and then you could have a below the stage pass, kind of like a backstage pass, but because they're puppeteers, they're below the stage, and that pass was $97. So there was no like middle ground between $10 and $97. And all they said is for the $97 one, you get extra goodies like bonus features like deleted scenes and other content. You get to participate in 2 live hangouts with people, and you can submit questions ahead of time. Plus that we're not 100% sure yet, but things will come. So being a huge Muppet fan, I took the chance and went for the below the stage pass deal. Now it's $100. I've been waiting for this kind of conversation to get out there really for the last 30, 40 years, just to see and hear what this stuff was like. And now it's finally out there. So I said, I took the chance. There's not going to be like a sequel or anything. So if you believe in it, support it. And they finally released one of their really cool special perks for those people that selected it. And they had to choose it by March 21st, or they're not going to get this perk. And it's pretty cool. It was a digital only movie. You can only stream or download it from the site. And they said, because so many people have asked for this, everybody that got the below the stage pass will get a DVD of the film personally signed to them from Frank Oz. So as a huge Muppet fan, and even if you're just a Star Wars fan, I get to have that coming my way. It's just a blank white disc that'll say to Rob from Frank, and if you go on their Facebook page or their site, you can see him signing a disc to Gonzo. It says to Gonzo, Frank Oz, and it's just going to come in a simple sleeve. But I think it's a really cool kind of extra that nobody knew about. But if you took the chance and pledged a little bit of faith towards something like this that you believe in, it's a little bit of karma back at your way. And as far as the documentary, it's kind of everything I thought. Of course, it only runs at 65 minutes, so it felt like really short to me because I just wanted to keep hearing more and more and more. I get why they cut it off, and I really look forward to the bonus features. So my pitch to you guys is go check out Muppet Guys Talking. Again, MuppetGuysTalking.com. And if you want to know what it's like to work on some revolutionary shows, you'll hear some candid conversations about what it was like and the ups and downs and the pitfalls. And you'll really be supporting some independent filmmakers because they've chosen not to do any deals with distribution folks and bring it to you directly.
That's definitely a great thing indeed. And if you are a fan of the Muppets a long time, like my good friend here, and also me as well, definitely that's a place to go. And as far as to grab that documentary, but also check out one of our previous episodes about a couple weeks ago when we talked about the Muppets and our thoughts on Disney's uh, what they're doing with the direction that they're going and what our hopes for and what we think will actually happen as far as for the Muppets down the road. There's some it was probably one of our most interesting conversations that we've had in some time. So, oh, doorbell.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even realize there was the doorbell thing down here. That's
Yes,
interesting.
that's interesting.
Bing! Saved by the bell. I guess we're done for the day. So thanks for having me again, Gerald, on the Cosmic Crossfire. Man, looking forward to next week. And for a week that we thought was both a little bit slow in the world of pop culture, I think we got some interesting chats there.
I think we did indeed. Rob, it's always a great pleasure to have you on. And if you want to ask Rob or me a question for the Cosmic Crossfire, feel free to do so by just shouting us out. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, and Rob McCallum Films on Facebook, Rob McZob on Twitter. And just basically, if you want to share anything, your thoughts on it, or if you have any thoughts on backed or busted crowdfunding, do that as well, because I know Rob is really getting started and geared up for his upcoming seminar as far as it's concerned. I know he's definitely looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it was sold out as of last night, so it's really going to be exciting to see where that goes with the full crowd, and I can't wait to report back on it.
Definitely great to hear indeed. Rob, as always, it's great having you on, and tell you what, it's always great having you a part of the Cosmic Crossfire and, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos.